Hello everyone. Apologies for the delay. We'll just begin shortly. There's some pressing issue that our management is dealing right now. Just a few more minutes, then we'll. Delay. A very warm welcome to everyone present here at Bhai Veer Singh Sahitya Sadan and those who have joined us online via YouTube. Today we gather for a very significant conversation, one about visibility, memory and identity. We are here to discuss a community that has lived in Kashmir for centuries, survived multiple traumas, and yet remains largely invisible in our collective consciousness and scholarship about Kashmir. I I am Harmangeet, and it is my privilege to moderate today's discussion on Dr. Komal JB Singh's important work, An Invisible Minority, the History, Society, and Politics of Sikhs in Kashmir. First, I would like to introduce our today's panelists. Today's author first, uh, Dr. Komal JB Singh. She is not just a researcher, but she belongs to the very community she documents. Born and raised in Baramulla, during the turbulent 1990s, she pursued her education at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Between 2017 and 2020, she undertook extensive fieldwork across Kashmir and Jammu, documenting survivor testimonies, many from individuals who have since passed away. Her unique position as an insider researcher, fluent in the native Pahari language, allowed her to access stories that might otherwise have remained untold. This is the first comprehensive academic study of Kashmiri Sikhs, filling a critical gap in both Kashmir studies and scholarship on Sikh communities outside Punjab. Dr. Singh, thank you for being here today. A round of applause for the author. Next, we have Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan, Associate Professor in Anthropology Department at University of Delhi. Dr. Mahajan's research focuses on identity formation, minority communities, and social memory in South Asia. His expertise in anthropological approaches to understanding how communities construct and maintain their identity in contexts of conflicts and displacement makes him an ideal interlocutor for Dr. Singh's work. He brings valuable theoretical perspectives on the ethnographic methods and frameworks that make this book significant. Welcome, Dr. Mahajan. A round of applause, please. And finally, our second panelist, Sardar Surinder Singh Obroy. He is a senior journalist and editor at large at Greater Kashmir. Mr. Obroy brings decades of journalistic experience covering Kashmir's complex landscape, having witnessed and reported on events from the turbulent 1990s to the Chitti Singhpora massacre to contemporary challenges. He provides invaluable ground level perspective. His dual identity as a journalist committed to the truth telling and as a member of the Kashmiri Sikh community offers unique insights to the issues of visibility, voice, and representation that are central to this work. We welcome you, Mr. O'Brien. Now, to begin the session formally, I would request Sardar GBS Sidhu, our Senior Vice President and former IPS officer and Special Secretary of RAW, to give a formal welcome address.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of National Institute of Punjab Studies, Bhai V. Singh Sahitya Sadan, my pleasure to welcome you all to this book discussion on An Invisible Minority, the History, Society and Politics of Sikhs in Kashmir by Dr. Komal JB Singh. In addition to being thankful to Dr. Singh, I would like to convey my special thanks to Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan and Dr. Surinder Singh Oberoi, who are the two panelists for this discussion. I am sure you will all gain out of this discussion and will at the end welcome all questions from you if you want to ask any. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you so much, sir. As a token of our appreciation for their presence and their contribution, Bhai Veer Singh Sahitya Sadan has a tradition to felicitate our guests with the Sadan's publications. And so very apt book we have is Kashmir Tukdi Jagato Nyari. It is a pictorial book. It has Bhai Veer Singh's poems on Kashmir that he has written on Kashmir along with their English translations. May I request Sardar GBS Sidhu to present the book to Dr. JB Singh, Dr. Komal JB Singh. Next, I would request Mrs. Sethi. I'm extremely sorry, Professor Sethi, our General Secretary, to present the book to Sardar Surinder Singh Oberoi. Now I would request Professor Amrit Basra to kindly present the book to Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan. Now we move to the heart of our discussion. The book, An Invisible Minority, is structured around 5 carefully constructed chapters that build a comprehensive narrative of Kashmir's Sikh identity. Chapter 1 traces the historical foundation from Guru Nanak's 1517 visit through the Gurdwara reform movement and political mobilization. Chapter 2 addresses the 1947 partition and the tribal invasion, a critical gap in the partition scholarship. Chapter 3 examines the 1984 to 1989 anti-Sikh violence and its aftermath. Chapter 4 focuses on the 2000 Chitti Singhpora massacre. And Chapter 5 synthesizes the central arguments about fluid identities shaped by violence. So to help understand the book in depth, we will the session has been divided into 3 parts. First, we'll have our panelists express what struck them the most in the book, and what are the major contributions and achievements of the book and the lessons from the book. And next we have some panelist specific questions and to the author specific questions, and then we will have a Q&A with the round with the audience. So first, I would request Sardar Surinder Singh Oberoi to kindly share his insights on the book. Can you speak there? Eh, Have
I understand what. Well, with the permission of the dais and lovely audience which is here, I'm lucky to have an opportunity, and I think this is for the first time that I'm visiting this day. So it gave me an opportunity, thanks to Dr. Ko, that I'm here. And also, what Dr. Komal has written about this invisible authority, I would not be wrong if I say that this invisible, if not worked at the present scenario, what the book mentions about, it's going to be vanishing minority. And that is exactly what is happening in Kashmir Valley. I'm reminded of shouldn't say an antidote, but what Shakespeare once said, that beauty is vulnerable, beauty bites. And Kashmir, being one of the most beautiful person, it attracts evil eye. And Kashmiri people being both beautiful, I would say, and especially Kashmiri Sikhs, they have been vulnerable despite their peaceful history which has been there in the valley, I would say. But not going into the details about that, what I personally see that history, society, and politics continue to be there, and I have read it in many of the books. But what is more important in this book is something which was not very well documented, which we had forgotten, which was more or less like a footnote, uh, is about the three sections. That is 1947 post violence which has taken place in Kashmir, and nobody has reported in that way. I mean, I was surprised and shocked. Long back, I did an article when we had a discussion with each other where around 20,000 Sikhs were killed. And if you add the numbers of the Hindus who have been killed, mostly what is now called as POK. And I was surprised to know that several of the Sikh temples there in POK have also been transferred into the government buildings rather than being protected property outright there. Anyway, having said that, these three sections, the second one which she mentions about the 1984, and of course, there again Sikhs suffered a lot. And lastly, about post 1990. I mean, Chatti Singh Pura is one of the biggest incidents which has happened since 1990 till today. The incidents continue to happen. The casualties continue to take place. That might be in the name of the civilians or the military persons or the terrorists or militants, whatever you like to say about that. But the violence continues today in Kashmir Valley. And these three chapters are quite important, looking into the journal aspect, but there again suffers the lot. It's like the local citizens, when the two elephants fight, the grass trembles. And this is what exactly is happening to the. And we, being very minuscule in Kashmir, are being affected. The other part which I really liked in this book, which you all must read about, are the testimonies. The testimonies still are quite fresh. They look as if people are speaking from their heart. Their wounds are still not healed, but at least Komal was able to bring, I'm sorry if I say Komal, but Dr. Komal, I was able to bring out some of those facts which are not known to the public. And this is what I was mentioning to her, that you should have converted this book to 2 volumes at least. So those testimonies are very important. If you read around those issues, will be, I personally feel, which will encourage the young researchers or the people who are interested to write more on Kashmir or on the Kashmiri Sikhs, or even in journal, that will help them to bring in the future uh, I would say the aspects which are not visible to most of the society. The book also speaks about the pain and suffering which the community has faced. And there is no one who can lead them. I personally see that there is no leadership as far as Kashmiri Sikhs are concerned. In fact, the Gurdwara elections have brought more enmity between the families rather than leadership in Kashmir. Imagine each constituency has got 300 to 200 or 250 votes. And when they fight against each other, I have seen families fighting against each other. I mean, unlike in 1947, which this book mentions about, that there were at least a couple of leaders who were able to bring in people from Muzaffarabad or from other areas, even from the Rawalpindi and other areas, because that being a highway, many of the people had been crossing Kashmir and then going into the mainland. And that was the time, I mean, not much has, that was a time when there was still Kashmiri leadership, Sikh leadership like Sant Tegh Singh and others were there. Or, but today you don't find that leadership. And that is the biggest fault which is happening. The second aspect I would say is that there is nothing left in Kashmir for Kashmiri Sikhs which should give them a reason to stay there. I mean, if I shifted from Kashmir in 2001, despite that at that time, I was doing very well as far as my journalism is concerned. And I used to then I became more or less like a parachute reporter. I would fly from Delhi, report, and come back. Until unless we are going to bring in some of the projects or models which will attract you to stay in Kashmir, then only it's possible for the Kashmiri Sikhs to stay in Kashmir. Otherwise, what has happened, which again has been mentioned in this book, that most of the Kashmiri Sikhs, I think for the first time, they have worked very smartly and intelligently. There is a very silent migration which is taking place in Kashmir. Majority of the people have sold off their fields, their orchards, because Kashmiri Sikhs were more or less farmers or people who were working in their horticulture. They sold off their remote orchards and bought properties in Jammu. They are trying to have their safety or security. They understand that once the Kashmiri Pandits have moved out, the Punjabi who were doing a lot of business at the time of Maharaja rule in Kashmir, they have moved out. Imagine in Lal Chowk and surrounding areas, which is called as the Namira Kadal area, there were 300 properties, prominent properties of Sikhs and Punjabis. Today you hardly find a property. So until unless there is some sort of an attraction for the local youth to stay there, I don't see we will be able to stop them. So this is one of the reason I say that invisibility should not turn. Where we don't find the Kashmiri Sikhs who will be there. They have to preserve their culture, and until and unless some projects come over, it's very difficult to preserve those type of things there. Uh, Lastly, I would say that there are lots of properties as far as the Sikh associations are concerned in Kashmir, but they don't have the direction how to bring in the skill education in Kashmir. And Kashmiri youth, especially Sikhs, are suffering because they are not being led properly in their development. They are not being given an opportunity as far as to uh, go for further studies in a better way within the valley. So most of them prefer to go out of Kashmir Valley. And I personally I think I should come into the second phase when there will be question and answer. I should not divert from the book more or less right now. And the other important aspect I would like what Komal has concluded in the book is that until and unless there is some sort of a support from outside for the Kashmir to build up their prominence, their leadership, things will not improve. So I am ending it on a very negative note that Sikhs will not continue to survive in Kashmir because of the continuing violence. I have been witness to a couple of incidents. For example, what she has mentioned about a Bimna incident, where some seven Sikhs were killed. Najur Nagar at Bimna, I mean, the operation took place. I still remember Advani used to be the home minister. There was a lot of hue and cry, and people wanted to have some sort of a solution. But what happened? There was an infight within the Kashmiris themselves. Advani wanted them to give some sort of a plan. And I was really witnessing in that Gurdwara in Majur Nagar, where they were not allowing the cremation of those who have died. But we were not able to give a plan that time to the government. Similarly, you look into the Chatti Singhpura, again, which has been described here. Till today, we don't know exactly who were the killers. Either we have insisted, nor have got the support that there should be some commission to look into it, that how this Chatti Singhpura happened. Because if you look into the follow-up operation which happened, which is called as Patribal, there a commission was there. I think Supreme Judge Pandya was asked to look into it, and finally there was a DNA test and everything happened there. But as far as Chatti Singhpura is concerned, it never happened. So many of these incidents are happening, but there has not been a follow-up. Why? Because the leadership is quite weak, and also it becomes more or less like as a food. Let me conclude it here, then I can speak of other issues as and when we ask the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for bringing out the important aspects of this work. Now I would request Dr. Mahajan to give his analysis of the book.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, Bhai Veer Singh Sadan, Sahitya Sadan, Dr. Jaswinder Singh for this kind suggestion, and then Komal also for suggesting my name. Also to my colleague Yadvinder Singh, because of whom I'm here. First of all, this book is a book of, I mean, labor of love. Lot of work, lot of hard work has gone making of this. If you get a chance to read this book, you'll realize that how much effort, how many years of work must have gone into making this book. Although, you know, when my friend was telling you that this book has 4 chapters, but those 4 chapters are so detailed and rich. The book is only 180 pages, but then if you see, it contains detailed historical information about, and it is based on archival material, a lot of sitting in the archives from the from sources which are which I don't think many people have used. And then you also see her traveling through the state. She's visiting families, as sir was saying. She visited Chatti Singhpura several times, interviewed women, children, others, and then through the villages of Baramulla to Jammu city, and other parts of Jammu and Kashmir. So it's a lot of work, um, lot of work. So I must congratulate you, Komal, for doing this very path-breaking work. This is definitely a path-breaking work. This is a monumental work. This is first of its kind. I don't think there is any literature which is which is of such a significance on Kashmiri Sikhs. So, what I want to also point out is that when we think about literature in general, and Komal comes from a discipline of political science, so she's and also one can think of another discipline which is Sikh studies. So she's contributing to two broad strands of literature. One is obviously the idea of doing work in South Asia, doing work on Kashmir and Kashmir studies. And largely, if we see the work on Kashmir is uh, again, divided into two strands. One is a lot of people work on Kashmir and they locate the problem in India-Pakistan relations, and there is a lot of literature which talks about the external dimensions of Kashmir conflict. People like Victoria Sheffield, Sumit Ganguly, they've been writing, Sumantra Bose, and several others. But then a lot of people again have talked about internal dimensions, which now has become an area which is obsolete after 370, because a lot of people would write about asymmetrical federalism, because a special kind of status which Kashmir enjoyed. And then came post 90s also, maybe in last 15 years or so, a lot of ethnographic literature which talks about the everyday lived realities. But then Kashmir, Komal's work is both historical as well as ethnographic in nature. So it is informing that strand of literature. And the second strand, which is of Sikh studies, and most of you know that the work on Sikhs is largely focused on Sikhs in Punjab. Himadri Banerjee and some others have done work which goes beyond, which talks about, Sikhs in other parts of India. Also, there is work on diaspora, but then we don't have any credible information about Sikhs in Kashmir. There are short pieces here and then, but we do not have a book. So that way, Komal's work is deeply appreciable, and it will definitely create a place in the larger literature. People are going to read it, people are going to cite it, people are going to critique it for various reasons. But then this is one solid work which is going to become like uh, a piece in the. It is going to be there on the shelves of the people. Second point I just want to make before I I'll also come for, maybe we'll speak a little more after Komal has um, given her points. The second thing is that we live in a region, but then this is an issue which is not only specific to South Asia. We live in age of reproductive and demographic anxieties, and if you see, the title of the book is also suggesting that an invisible minority. So if you talk to a lot of people all over the world, people have this whole sense of, what is going to happen to them, what is the kind of future people will have. Think about refugee crisis all over. Think about, the kind of world we are living in today. So, and more so in South Asia, because we have these issues of, diminishing populations. People, there is a lot of literature, even from Jammu and Kashmir. In Ladakh, somebody called Sarah Smith wrote a very interesting book about these demographic anxieties and how Ladakhi Buddhists and there's this whole idea of producing more children. And you must have seen in India also, like, a lot of conversation about, people should produce more children with the total fertility rates going down in certain, I mean, in most of the states. Only few states are above two. So, and also with the settling of two, I mean, out of the three pillars of demography, fertility, mortality almost settled. I mean, this whole issue of migration, and that Mr. Oberoi also brought in this whole idea of silent migration. But then, how do we think about migration which is happening from Kashmir? So Komal definitely brings it. I mean, in towards the conclusion, she talks about the silent migration. But then, um, one of the questions I wanted to ask her was that, is it only because of the conflict that migration is happening, or there are several other factors which are involved? One of the very, very important lesson which I learned from Komal's book is that Komal brings out this very nuanced idea that a lot of people talk about. A lot of Kashmiri Muslims you talk to, or a lot of literature, they'll say that, Kashmiri Pandits, they went away in 1989, and a lot of people, they'll say it's a Jagmohan's. I mean, Jagmohan did everything. The governor then, and he was instrumental in, arranging the vehicles. He was, so that is one thought. But then a lot of, if you listen to a lot of Kashmiri Pandit voices, and a lot of literature is there, they say that there was this mahal, and that's why they migrated. But then Komal, uh, in some ways, tries to explain this phenomena, that why is it that Kashmiri Sikhs did not leave? Although, if we see the latest report of the Rehab Department 2021, there are around 15 to 1700 families who migrated, who are registered in the Jammu camps. But then a majority of Sikhs lived, they lived in Kashmir throughout the conflict process also. What Komal has mentioned is that a lot of them, they have houses. They, whosoever has little money, they have built their houses in various localities of Jammu, which is, in some ways, she's not like worked on Jammu, but then I think that is something which she should do, because Jammu is again a very interesting place when it comes to, how a generation of refugees have come to that place. So one idea she gives, that there was a lot of violence which followed 1984 in Jammu region as well as other parts of India, and Kashmiri Sikhs, because of their peculiar position, because they were a minority there, they were a minority here, they, and since they had lands and orchards, so they decided not to come to Jammu because of the communal environment. They were not expecting that they'll be welcomed in that city. And also, in 1989, there was this, I mean, whole violence in the city of Jammu, where where Sikhs were attacked by. I mean, Jammu has also a tradition of, these. Uh, uh, I mean, Sikhs has been in, they've been part of the city, but then because of certain kind of communal environment, Sikhs were attacked. The procession, the religious procession, was attacked in '89, and it became a huge issue. So I found that very interesting. I mean, especially uh, you know, when it comes to this whole idea that why Sikhs did not move away from Kashmir, and they kept staying in Kashmir. So so I think, along with these issues, what Komal also brings out is the whole idea of, this formation of identity, which is Kashmiri Sikh identity, and how it is different from identity of a Punjabi Sikh. Uh, and she does it with lot of information, lot of data. also, towards the end of her book, she raises questions about, and I don't know how many of you know this, that a lot of people, I mean, at least in Sikh studies, they know that most of the Kashmiri Sikhs are, I mean, of Brahmin origin. So caste, which is obviously when it comes to Punjab, a lot of people have written about caste in Punjab, but in context of Jammu and Kashmir, people have not dwelled into the issue of caste as yet. So that is again one area which Komal, towards her conclusion, brings into the bring to the attention. So migration, caste, these are two areas. Again, she brings a very important point wherein she says that how Kashmiri Sikh traditions of worship, of living everyday religious life are different from Punjabi Sikh traditions. So she's also creating this. She's also bringing into context this whole idea of cultural values which shape Kashmiri ways of life. And I've seen myself, like, I've studied at Punjab University, Chandigarh, and I've seen Kashmiri Sikh students, how their way of, I mean, wearing the pagdi or turban, I mean, how people are sometimes, not accepted, sometimes even ridiculed because they wear the turban in a particular fashion. Also, people are mocked at because they cannot speak the Punjabi the way you are supposed to speak Punjabi in a particular university, in particular cultural milieu. So I mean, this book, so basically what I'm saying, I mean, I just want to conclude here. I have some more points, but then what I'm saying is that Komal's book is actually covering a lots of, I mean, a big area. So she's targeting, obviously, Kashmir studies. Her book is talking about Sikh studies, and also how minorities, they make their lives possible in conflict zones. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So I'll moderate the discussion with a few questions, starting with the author. So Komal, she writes in her book that she grew up in Baramulla listening to her grandparents' partition stories, and then she comes to JNU, and she was asked, "Are you a Kashmiri Muslim? Are you a Hindu who was thrown out?" So, revealing how Kashmiri Sikh identity remains unrecognized even in the educated circles. So, she finally says that silence was her refuge for a long, long time. So, what compelled you to break that silence?
Thank you so much, Herman. And it was such a nice to hear Surendra Obraiji and Dr. Chakravarti. I mean, and thank you to Bhai Veer Singh Sadan, organizers, everybody, Dr. Jaswinder, Dr. Mohinder Singh, for organizing this program and all other panelists in this program. Well, Herman, to answer your question, well, yes, when I came to JNU, I was a person who wanted to study international relations. And it's for international relations, and is it working?
It's working.
It's working. Okay, so I grew up like, but so JNU is a very political campus. Also, you have a lot of, you get. Is it working?
No, it's
It's okay. I was looking at her. So yes, it was a personal thing because in my MPhil I did on South Asian studies, but by MPhil a lot of questions were being asked about myself, but my friends only, like, who are you? And I got to know that I was among the first few Sikhs to be in JNU. So it was quite an eye opener for my department, for everybody around me, that they are Sikhs in Kashmir. And then I thought that, this should be something I should explore and I should study. For that, of course, I had to change my department also. So it was another struggle because the previous department thought that it's not that important work to be done. So anyways, then I found a good supervisor and then we did our work. So yes, it was a more of a personal, that's what university spaces does to a person. Like you go to universities and they make you aware, the kind of a self-awareness a person has. That's exactly what I faced, and I think that is what brought me into this research also.
Okay. Thank you. Building on that, so you were finally able to break the silence. And as you write in your book, that Chardi Kala is an important element of the Sikh identity in Kashmir as well. So I just want to know, how did this principle of Chardi Kala help you? Like, how did it fit in when you were documenting the traumatic and violence and trauma?
Yeah, I think this was something which came out of my field work when I was interviewing people, like people who have faced 47, people who are living in the far-flung villages of Kashmir. Like you go to Kashmir and mostly you go to Srinagar, but then I'm interviewing people who are living at the line of control, and these are the people who are actually invisible. Nobody knows about them, and to an extent, even people from Srinagar don't know that people who live on the line of control. That's the tragedy of the border people. So when I used to ask them, that like I'll share a small incident because this was a lot of. So I was in a place in Badgam. So I had a plan to interview at least 4 to 5 people. So I used to make a contact with one person in the village, and then they used to identify that if there is any survivor of 47 in the village. So I went to somebody's home and he said, "No, madam, beta, you have come, now you have to eat food." I said, "No, I have to finish this interview because I have to go to some other place." And the only thing he told me, he said, "It took me 70 years for somebody, I was waiting from 70 years for somebody to come and know my story. And you think that you can go like that?" So at that day, I could just cover one story because I had to sit with that person to know about him. So, Harman, it was a series of all the field observation where I would ask them, what made them to stay? Because if you go to these remote villages in Kashmir, you actually feel little scared. Of course, I would not feel because I'm a local. But if somebody from an outside, people still go to Chitisimpura. They go for a day. In the day, they will just come back by the evening. Nobody stays in those villages. And there is a absolute, there's a silence in those villages. And it's also haunting also in a time. The place where such kind of a tragedy has happened. So I used to ask them, why you stayed. And, this was the first question I asked everybody I met. And there was a common answer was that, Kashmir is not just a land. ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਐਂਡ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ and that was something which also indicated to me that why Sikh suffering has remained invisible in the mainstream despite there's so much of thing talked about Kashmir is because the Sikhs cannot presume themselves to be victim. But now, then I also question that thing also, that is this Chardi Kala also infusing a sense of silence on us? That we are in a trouble, we are in a problem, but we think we are a Sikh, we are not supposed to be victims, so we don't say our things. So I think I was trying to bring out that kind of a trajectory.
Okay. Thank you. And also, could you please elaborate on like the Sikhs chose to stay back? And you, in your book, you have mentioned about the 1984 and the state intervention regarding that. How did that affect the decision of Sikhs to stay back?
See, I think if like people who would be interested to read this book, because it's interesting to see that I have tried to first establish the presence of Sikhs in Kashmir. Like sometimes we also think that who are Sikhs outside Punjab are the Sikhs who went from Punjab at certain point during Maharaja Ranjit Singh time or something. This is the popular understanding of Sikhs outside Punjab. But in Kashmir, it didn't happen like that. There are the Sikhs who are the indigenous ethnic community. They are the local Brahmin Hindus who adopted Sikhism at one point. So for a Kashmiri Sikh or for the Jammu and Kashmir entire, I mean, we have a Brahmin Sikhs also in Punch also. So that identity is not, they are not an outsider to that place. And I think this is what I was trying to also establish, that they are the ethnic community who have been living there. So in doing so, when I was trying to do this, like, you know, we all know the gurus who went to Kashmir, and then there was also, if you see during those times, there was also, and then we have a 27-year of Sikh rule in Kashmir. That is a very important point. I mean, and we don't find anything about the Sikh rule in Kashmir anymore. That's another tragedy, because but anyways, I have also highlighted that the literature, how it is written about it. And I think that's another crucial point for the Sikh presence, because we had a lot of Punjabi settlements, and the Sikhs also, you know, because during Hari Singh Nalwa, all these gurdwaras got constructed. So that was a consolidating, you know, apart from, other than Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir was a part of the, you know, it was an entire Khalsa empire. So I think that was a very crucial in understanding a Kashmiri Sikhs, right? But then also is that when I was trying to see that, if you see the writings around the Sikh rule in Kashmir, especially European writings and local writings, there's also a kind of a, you know, they say that, you know, it was a very negative, it was very oppressive, and, you know, there was also, so I was also trying to see that, is that also creating the otherness in Kashmir? That, oh, these are the Sikhs who were oppressive at one point, you know. So, I mean, these, because this was not my core work, so what I've done in my work is I try to highlight these strands. So like, if there are future scholars who want to work on this, they can pick up from those points. So in terms of like who stayed back, like, I mean, it's a very recent question for us. Like, it's 89, it's a 30-year back. But I think I would like to highlight is like the Sikh presence, especially Singh Sabha movement and Akali movement, which I have dealt in a detail into. I mean, it was an eye-opener for me also. I never thought that the Sikhs of the Baramulla, the Sikhs of Srinagar, the Amira Kadal Gurdwara, which Surinderji also talked about, which is the center of the city, was such an important place for the politics. I mean, the Sikhs of Baramulla writing in 1920s that the Sikh of the Afghanistan should be protected. It was an eye-opener for me. So, I mean, you know, and this also, like Dr. Chakravarti said, that, you know, it also opens understanding Punjab, Sikh studies outside Punjab, and like also Akali movement, how it impacted outside Punjab. So I think what I would like to also mention is that in 1920s to 47, we had a huge Sikh leadership, which I have highlighted in my work, but they are nowhere. I mean, I would like to highlight, like, we have the people like Sardar Budh Singh. He was a civil servant from Mirpur. He was founding member of Dogra Sabha, and then he was the instrumental in making Muslim conference to national conference, and a Sikh actually leading all those events of the people's right. And in 1925 he gave up his own job as a senior civil servant, and he became the first president of national conference. And it's such a tragic thing that nobody knows about these people. So what I have also tried to do is that I want to recover these voices, these people, you know, who were also, like Surendra Oberoi ji said, who were the part of the footnotes. So Harman, I mean, what happened last 30 years, you know, why this, of course, I mean, there are different schools of thought. Some says that Sikhs were not that vulnerable, they were not being attacked as Kashmiri Hindus. But then I also challenge that, because I bring out the entire 90s period where the Sikh officials were also being targeted, in which Lieutenant Colonel Bali's killings, and there were so many other people, so many police officers who were being killed. It was and then also people who got killed because of the crossfirings and all that. So Sikhs were killed. So Chitti Singhpura was not the first event. So, but then I also wanted to see that what was the Sikh position in 1980s, when like 1980s, when the Sikhs were in a tussle with Indian state also, like there was 84 had happened, there was a tension. And then in Jammu, we have two events. We have a Talwada massacre in which 16 Sikhs were killed. They were a worker in a hydroelectric project. And in 84, again, we have a firing in Srinagar also, Amira Kadal, a police firing, in which 10 people died, in which 3 were Muslims, right? But then it was a police firing in Jammu. It was more of a communal violence. So I tried to, I'm not saying that that can be one factor, but I tried to establish that this can be a major, because when I was trying to interview people and I said that, especially those who were the activists of those times in 90s, and I said, could you trust Kashmir at that time? Why you stayed back? And they said, we used to walk with them because we also thought that in Jammu might not be welcomed, but we were also scared that there will be a day when we have to also leave. So we started building a second homes in Kashmir. And it's a different kind of a study which has to be done, like how a community is not leaving. So we are not technically leaving. Like I don't think I have voted because my vote is in Baramulla, but I live here, and that's how my entire family is. My cousins are in all across the world, but none is living in Kashmir. But we are not migrants. So if you are not migrant, then you are not registered as a migrant.
Thank you, Komal. I would like to ask Sardar Surinder Singh of Bhai. So Komal talks about as she has even now mentioned about the Akali movement and the Singh Sabha movement in Kashmir. So it was also even to my surprise that we haven't heard about that Akali struggle and Singh Sabha movement had such an impact in the Kashmir. And could you please elaborate on that, and also how it helped consolidate the Sikh identity in Kashmir? It's
Yeah. You see, what has happened, as I said, that Kashmiris were quite scattered, especially Kashmiri Sikhs, what Komal mentioned about that when most of the Sikhs who migrated, wherever they got a good place or something to work around, they just started living in those particular areas. That's why you find even today, many of the Sikhs live in Uri, which of course still remains one of the highway area which used to be there. But there are people who have been living even in Kargil and other areas around there. So Sikhs have been there. And what was there was that there was a month Shahi, I would say. Many of these Sikh temples were being worked, or ownership belonged to those months. And this is how they used to manage. And that is where the boycott started against the month. And it started very much from the Chatti Patshai Gurdwara from Srinagar. And people started boycotting it. And of course, you see, all said and done, even if Sikhism is in Kashmir, it's all because of the Sikh gurus. And influence of Punjab will always overshadow over Kashmir. And Kashmiris, of course, they have their different dialect. They have their, even dialect between Tral and Baramulla is different between the two. I've seen some of the Sikhs, even in Nagaland, who look like Nagas only, the way they have been working around. But what I mean to say is that concentrated it, and this is where they started looking into. Punjabi Suba was also quite an influence in Kashmir. Why shouldn't we have it? So that created more or less, and there used to be a quite interaction between Punjab as well as the leadership of Kashmir. For me, the leadership of Kashmiri Sikh was quite great till 60s, I would say. Post 60s, things deteriorated. I did not see any of the top or good leadership of Kashmiri Sikhs who should be there. And I think it was the influence of why, because that time economically Sikhs were good. Economically, they were running the business. Like, for example, the first architect or chief engineer of Jammu and Kashmir at the time of Maharaja was Sardar Ganda Singh. He built up, the building still exists there. The Gurdwara Amira Kadal building has been constructed by him. There used to be, my family used to have a hotel in Kashmir also. But I still preserve the building, but it's closed. And all our future generation, like my brothers, children, as well as my son, they're all outside India now, more or less. So this is where we are losing Kashmir, and this is what I am quite worrisome. In fact, this is what I was discussing with Komal, that I should now I'm retired, I should go back and restart my hotel in Kashmir, so that at least we can bring back some sort of a revive this thing. But mind you, situation is not allowing us to do that. Until unless there is some sort of a solution, we may say that there are people who are ready to invest in Kashmir, but will they be ready to build up a huge factories? Now look into the post 2019. I'm sorry, I'm diverting a little on it. How many industries have opened up a factory in Kashmir? I leave that question and open to that. That's why I don't see the future of the youth, especially Kashmiri youth who just want to go outside to earn money. Economically, they have to be viable.
Thank you, sir. So, picking on that you just said that you want to go back and start our daily over there, and about from about the Punjabi language issue. So it's a pain point for the Kashmiri Sikhs, even the Jammu Sikhs. So how has this denial for the recognition of the language affected the Kashmiri Sikhs, and why is there not a larger movement to get the minority status and the Kashmiri and the Punjabi language recognized?
See, when I was in a school in Kashmir, and I used to live in the core of Lal Chowk. I mean, I've seen from my window nearly all the conflicts, even the oath ceremonies of the chief ministers like Sheikh Abdullah's and others, like a kid. I have grown like that. I have seen Kashmiris fighting for a Punjabi department in university. I've seen Kashmiris fighting for Punjabi language to be taught in the colleges, which was not there. Now, of course, they have started in the colleges, but I don't think Kashmir University has got a Punjabi department as yet. There was no one. I mean, this is where I said that leadership is weak, as far as we are concerned. We have not been able to project ourselves. I gave you an example of when the Home Minister Advani came after the killings of Mahjoor Nagar. We were still not able to bargain a little, at least achieve something. We created a list of demands in such a big way that finally they got dissolved on its own. So that is the reason that until and unless there is a one-point agenda to be fulfilled and then move to the second part of it, that's not happening. We are demanding too much and we are not achieving anything.
So, as I understand, there is a quota for the Pahari.
I think I will add something to this,
Sure.
So this Punjabi language issue, I mean, we had Urdu as an official language, and Punjabi was one of the recognized language. So what happened recently is that they recognized 5 languages, in which they also included Dogri and other languages, even Hindi also in J&K, which is not a Hindi-speaking place at all. So the Punjabi was chucked out at that time. I mean, and then there was also a protest in Jammu and all that. Now, what happened after that? So people are protesting. You will see a lot of, small in newspaper, local dailies, Sikhs are holding protests that, and this is one of the main demand of all the Sikhs in all the memorandum, that the Punjabi language should be restored. Now, what has happened is that there is also a regional politics, is that the Pahari language, which is from the Ponchan, so they have gotten special status. Now they are also part of ST, so scheduled tribe. Now what has happened is, like, a young Kashmiri Sikhs, and they are also now confused that if they should identify themselves as a Punjabi or Pahari. Because our elders, what they have done is that they used to identify themselves, we speak Pahari, and our Pahari is more of a Hindu ko and Potwari. I mean, that kind of Kashmiri Sikhs, we speak that kind of an accent. But they identify themselves historically with Punjabi, always. But in Gurdwaras, we speak Punjabi, but when we speak one-to-one, we don't speak Punjabi. So it's a kind of a very tragic tree, and that's why we cannot speak that fluent Punjabi. So now the youngsters are also questioning our leaders, that if we are speaking Pahari, and Paharis have now got the status and reservation. And unfortunately, Kashmiri Sikhs are not part of, because they are in general category, they're not part of any quota. So, the kind of a demand which you are saying, I think there is also kind of a resistance also now, that should we identify ourselves with the Pahadi because this is our mother tongue, or we should identify with the Punjabi? Yeah.
I'll just add this one more thing on it. Look into the new status of the delimitation which took place for Jammu and Kashmir. There was special status or special 2 seats given to Kashmiri Pandits who have migrated. So they will be nominated. There is 1 seat which has been given to the people of POK who are there. But what about Sikhs? Because Sikhs are not being seen as a minority within a minority. And this is one of the challenges which still continues to be there.
Thank you, sir. So, one more question to you, sir. So, why do you think the Kashmiri Sikh experiences have remained largely absent from the mainstream journalism? Like you being a Kashmiri Sikh journalist, what is your insight on that?
See, it's very important, first of all, to understand that do we have educational institutions which are encouraging Kashmiri Sikhs to be the students or get the scholarships outright there. And for me, since after 1947, Kashmiri Sikhs were not economically well. They would prefer to have, you can say, I mean, not in a derogatory way, but happy to be a driver, to be a transporter, to be an agriculturist, or a 4th class employee. And many of the Sikhs have suffered because they were working as drivers for Intelligence Bureau or for Army. And they were spotted and killed also. Why? On the name of that, they could be an Indian agents. I'm talking about early 90s and 90s. Something. So, I mean, we were not organized, or you can say. Now, but what is happening? The education is free in the government schools. And most of the people who had been living in the remote area would study in the government schools only. There were very few Sikhs who had the preference to have a better education. But things are changing now. Things are changing because I trained 3 journalists, Sikhs, who are now working in different areas, including Pradeep and Ardit. Pradeep is working now for Times Now. I mean, they still consider me I consider them like my younger brother. But what's happening, the tragedy is they're all leaving the valley. They are not staying there. There's nothing, as I said in my earlier comments, that there is no model, there is no way that we can keep people attracted to stay in Kashmir. Anyone who has been able to achieve something would love to go and work outside Jammu and Kashmir.
Thank you, sir. So, as Dr. Mahajan mentioned, like it was mentioned, I think all of you mentioned that Kashmiri Sikhs mostly have a second home in Jammu. And sir, since you work mostly around Jammu, you have worked in that area. So what are the major pain points and what is the plight of the Kashmiri Sikhs now in Jammu? What would you say? Like what are the major obstacles, problems they face?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think Komal can answer that better than me. Also, Oberoi-ji. But I think I just want to take you people back to Kashmir a bit. I also, I'll just make 2 points. One, I traveled last year to Valley, to Baramulla, and to Rafiabad and other places. And as a lot of this whole idea of Sikhs migrating out, silent migration, but then what I've seen is that some people, they stay, and I've met few families who have stayed and there is just one if you give them one incentive, they will stay, and that is sarkari naukri. So I met this family where the elder son was already working in the university. Younger son got a job in the higher education department, and then they convinced each other and the parents to stay although they have a house in Jammu, but then they have now started also buying some land and doing some horticultural activities. So I think there are few case studies, but then I think they're right. That is not happening with the a majority of people. Another thing is that now there is also. I mean, there are people, for example, I don't know how many of you know, but this founder of Chai Point, Chai Point is a very famous chain, and the founder is a Kashmiri Sikh. Yeah. So there are entrepreneurial activities which are happening. I think even in Kashmir proper, there are people who are generating employment. I'm forgetting the names of these two gentlemen who have quite big. Yeah, Baldev Singh. Yeah. So that also one feature which I noted in Rajouri, Poonch, as well as in Nushaira was, I mean, this is another point I want to make, is there is a lot of cultural symbolism which Komal has somehow missed in the book. I may be wrong, but then one thing is that there is this popular culture. You'll see Sidhu Moosewala as a cultural icon of the youth on the cars. Or if you go to a restaurant, you'll see images of him, and also to whichever house you visit, you'll see images of Bhindranwala, which is again, some kind of identity which people have. These are like some of the identity markers which make, Kashmiri Sikhs little different from. So I don't know. You can react to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember. I think in Kashmir, like in my own house, my grandmother had General Bikram's picture. And whenever in 90s when army used to come, so my dad was a police officer. So they used to ask, who is this? And my grandmother used to say, it's sade apne rishtedar hage. So that just reminded me now. And this was a kind of a thing with everybody. Now, what was the essence was in 47 when this tribal invasion happened, and Patiala Sikh forces, they came to Kashmir and they had a huge impact on the local population, and people had their pictures in their houses, these generals. And so, I mean, I could just think about what you just said, the kind of a cultural thing, yes.
And another observation when you talk about, and which, of course, Komal has brought out, but then not in detail, is whole idea of food. I mean, one major distinction, and if you ever travel to Kashmir by road, you'll see hotels, these restaurants, and every hotel has this. I mean, they are either Vaishno dhabas or they are Muslim hotels, and then some hotels definitely are for. I mean, Sikhs, they know that which hotel they have to go to. If they have to eat, they have to go to this particular. And I've witnessed many times, like, this identity of being a Sikh becomes very important when it comes to food. Because in large parts of Kashmir Valley, as well as its Jammu region, there was no concept of jhatka meat shops. Jammu, of course, there were, but when I was doing my fieldwork in Doda and Kishtwar and Bhadrawa, also in Kashmir Valley, very few jhatka meat shop. And I mean, I've seen, at least in Doda, these meat shops came up only after the militancy. It was, I mean, especially to cater to the armed forces. So
I think I'll add to this, because in Kashmir, I mean, if you see Kashmiri society, we have a Kashmiri Hindu, Muslims, and then Sikhs. So, I mean, the popular imagination of Kashmir is having a Wazwan, eating in Trambi, and the Sikhs are the only one who are not eating that in Kashmir. I mean, in Kashmir, we have a very clear-cut demarcation of our food choices. And like our neighbors, if they are Muslims, I mean, and I think this is another point, Dr. Chakrabarti, that, sometimes people say that food sharing actually generates the, brotherhood or whatever, togetherness, you must say. But I think in context to Kashmiri Sikhs, it's not true, because they have been preserving their religious thing, like in terms of having shops. So, because it's a very small community, so we know where we have to buy. And it's such a small, knitted community that even if some Sikh want to eat halal, he cannot eat. I mean, it's a stigma. It's totally, you will have now these days, you will have a pictures getting viral in the group. And sometimes I remember a young person I met last year, and he said he met some Punjabi Sikh eating non-veg on Dal Lake. And he told him that, you don't know, it's a jatka and halal. And he said, no, we don't know. And he said, no, we don't eat Muslim food here. And he said, that person also got offended. So anyways, what I'm trying to bring is that in terms of Dr. Chakrabarti, Kashmir, I mean, Sikhs had a very clear-cut demarcation, I mean, in terms of food choices. And also to your point, which you said, that people really going back and still staying in the villages. I mean, everybody I met, everybody I interviewed said if they get the job, they will go back. They said, we like that slow life, it's okay. Okay, there is violence, it's fine. We have seen from our childhood, okay. But the point is we should get, but I think the biggest issue is unemployment, the alienation of being. I think if there is some kind of what Oberoi Sahab is also saying, is that if we have kind of an engagement in terms of employment, in terms of jobs, in terms of community, political participation, Kashmiri Sikhs are asset to India. I mean, they are the last flag bearer of secularism of Kashmir. I mean, they are precious to both. For Kashmir, because what we say, the Kashmiriyat, after 89, I mean, it's the Kashmiri Sikhs who are holding that Kashmiriyat. And I think for India also, we are the one. So I think they should be really taken care.
Okay,
I think he wanted to add something.
That's fine. You were asking about why they're having a second house, their second house. You see, it's a survival instinct. We are not sure when next incident may happen in Kashmir. If Pahalgam can happen, if target killing of a school teacher can happen, or we don't know in which village something may happen. Finally, you see, it's a geopolitics which is being played on the name of Kashmir. Kashmiris are not being as such being looked into the way this is one of the safety valves which they have taken it up, that they are trying to build up. They are selling off their houses. They are not very rich people who can have their summer house or a winter house right there. So one of the ways is that they are trying to shift so that their future generation does not suffer. And that's one of the reasons I said we will be vanished one day soon, because we all have started moving out of valley. And secondly, yes, Kashmiris are very conservative, very conservative. They wear religion on their sleeves, yes. Kashmiri Sikhs. Yes. They and Jatka shops are several, half a dozen. Next time I'll take you along with me.
So, Dr. Mahajan, you mentioned in while you were speaking that the Kashmiri Sikhs are ridiculed for the way they tie their turbans or something. So, I think this is this goes both ways. If Punjabis don't see them as their own, even Kashmiri Sikhs, they don't see Punjabis as their own. Would you like to comment on that?
Again, I think something which both of them can answer better than me, because I just want to make a clarification. Of course, I mean Valley. I was actually talking about Doda, which is very different from Valley when it comes to food. Also, yes, they are the conservation. Sikhs are conservative. Of course, I mean you'll never see a Sikh without a turban in Kashmir. The second, of course, the food. And I've seen, I've traveled with Kashmiri Sikh friends, and they take their chula gas along if they travel anywhere. So they won't eat food at any of the restaurants. So last year I went to Gurez Valley with the family and they took their supplies along. Second, what you've been asking about is again based on very limited, it's not research based, it's based on my observation as a student at Punjab University, where this I've seen this happening, and that was not happening only to Kashmiri Sikhs alone. This happens to anybody who doesn't fall into that majoritarian way of speaking a language, dressing in the way they should be dressing. So, I mean, of course, I mean, a lot of people who come from outside to these cities, whether this is Chandigarh or Amritsar or Patiala, where the university, which are the university towns, people who do not look like, who do not belong there, they are ridiculed. So maybe, I mean, yeah.
Like if you see my third chapter, which is 84, so I have covered a lot of people who were associated to Punjab movement at some point, and then I have brought up their stories and their testimonies. That's very interesting if somebody is interested in that part. So I met one person in Araspura, and he said that when he was in jail, so he said we met Punjabis, and they said, oh, how come the J&K Bum and Sikhs have become so strong that they are also fighting? So these kind of, layers you could find that there are this kind of a stereotyping that you are right, it works both ways. I mean, it happens both ways. I mean, there's a typical, but I think even J&K is much close to Punjab. Still, we don't face that much because we are next to Punjab. It might happen more to the others who are like from the South India or the other part, northeastern Sikhs. I mean, we still, I mean, and also I think with the picnic part which you said, I think to just have something on the lighter note. So last year, a cousin of mine, he went for a camping in Gulmarg. So I said, how many of you are going? He said, 4. He said, 2 Sikhs, 2 Muslims. I said, oh, that's so nice. So how are you going to cook? So he said, I think Dr. Chakravarti, this should be my next book. So he said, they have bought their own chicken, we have bought our own chicken. So we will cook, but I said, what about the rice? Will you share the rice? He said, rice is fine. I said, okay, so what happened to the breakfast? He said, no, breakfast we share. So, I mean, people can actually preserve their religious thing. We don't have to necessarily cross our, fundamentals to be seen as, like in Delhi circles, like you have to really outgrow your fundamentals to become more inclusive. But in Kashmir, there is a kind of an understanding where people, okay, you eat this, I will eat this, and people are fine with this. So that
it's a mutual understanding in this.
I mean, even in weddings also. Earlier in 90s, there was no, we never used to have many restaurants. So we used to give sukka ration. So we used to give chickens, and that too zinda chicken. So that to the entire Muslim locality, and that's how they used to give. But now, of course, they organize. So, I mean, there is a kind of an understanding which people have built. So,
yeah. Thank you. Of course. So I was coming to that. So now the floor is open for the audience if you have any questions.
I want to ask one small question. I have been to Jammu quite a number of times. I see more of Sikhi in Jammu than in Punjab or in Delhi. Sikhs are complete, Sikh is pura. What is the reason for that? Why they are so complete and they don't trim their hairs, they honor their Rath Mriyada and all that. They follow their Rath Mriyada. Is there a special reason for that? We are going away from Sikhi and
See, exactly. I mean, I don't see much of the difference between Jammu Sikh and Kashmir Sikh, even though you can say that there are Punchi, they are called as a Punchi Sardar or a Baramuli Sardar, Muzaffarabadi Sardar or Punjabi Sardar.
Yeah.
But the way you are being brought up, for example, I was studying in a Christian missionary school.
Yeah.
Even there, when we used to go for 7 days camp for mountaineering and other things, we were given a separate cook for 10 or 12 of our Sikh students who were there. So this is being inbuilt since our childhood, that you have to be conservative. And it's not between us and Muslims only, between Kashmiri Pandits and Muslims also, it has been there. They also have been sharing the rations. You see, this is where the diversity has finished in Kashmir. And that is a shocking thing. But what has happened now in Jammu, lots of these Kashmiri Sikhs have now got settled there. The influence of Valley, Poonch, Rajouri is more on Jammu rather than from Gurdaspur or Pathankot or other areas. They have been moving towards Chandigarh, Punjab, or towards Delhi and other areas. So it's the river is flowing from the mountain towards the plain. But there they have been preserving it. But to tell you very frankly, with the new generation, I have seen now many of these Sikhs, Kashmiri Sikhs also, when they are in Delhi, they don't care. And when they are in London, they will never care. So that's how the things are changing. Earlier, you can call that they were valley
But in
vision.
Jammu,
They were
you
valley
never see a
vision.
Sikh having his beard trimmed.
In Kashmir also, never, neither in Jammu nor in Kashmir, because I call it as a valley vision. We lived in a valley vision earlier there. We did not see beyond that. And within valley vision, it was very important. It was a stigma if you would be seen that you are trimming your beard or you are eating halal, despite being a Muslim country.
Okay.
There was a time where beef was not sold in Kashmir.
Okay.
And Tuesday used to be a meatless day. So that is what Kashmir we have seen pre-1989.
One thing is more, Dogaras are known to have betrayed Maharaj Ranjit Singh and led to his fall. What is the relationship between Dogaras and the Sikhs in there in that region?
I mean,
Do we still remember and do we still hate Dogaras?
The differences will always be there. There has not been progress. Of course, Sikhs remember it very bitterly that Kashmir was sold out.
Yeah.
And but who played the dirty game was the Britishers that time, and it was just an advantage. So if you ask me that from people to people, there are not much difference. People understand that some dirty games were played from the British and other areas, and this has happened even within the Rajasthani kings and. I mean, look into the Prithvi Raj and Jaychans and other things also, which has happened there. So, not influence of that is not much there. But Dogras were still considered. Now they are asking for a separate land. Now they are asking for a separate state. But earlier they had a lot of differences with Kashmir. But they are dependent on Kashmiri Muslims because of the Darbar move which happens.
Okay.
All the offices which go to Jammu in the winter session.
Okay.
So interdependency still continues. And that remains the reasons that they will have to respect each other, even if they don't like.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Sir, thank you very much. I don't think any problem in Kashmir. Jammu as you people are talking, it's very encouraging for me. Mr. Bhai say I want to go back to my ancestral home and doing something for our people or some Kashmiri people. It is, but I was surprising. Nobody of you is saying anything about 370. Nobody is talking about that. It means it is nothing. Kashmir is good. Kashmir was good. Kashmir is were good. And Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, I think they all are living peacefully there. Some across the border, there are some problem that I know. Okay, now you talking about the British. I think this Maharaja Hari Singh would have acceded to India at that time. There will be everything fine. Thank you very much.
Related to this also only, like what is the relation of 6 with the 370?
Hello, ma'am. Since the subtitle mentions history, the question is to Dr. Singh. Since the subtitle of your book mentions history, so I was just wondering what was the status of the recognition of Sikhs in the pre-independence Kashmir state? I mean, their representation in the court, in the police, in the army. Is there a qualitative shift? And in case there is a qualitative shift, would you believe that that happened because of democratization?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Komal, for wonderful work. In your book, the page number 24, it says that 1911, the census is mentioned here, actually. Figures are not there. How many Sikhs, the population of Sikh in that time. Because I was going through some census since 1883-84, the first census which has come. And I was tracing the history of Sikhs in other parts of Kashmir. You have done, and some others are working on Northeast also. But Sikhs have a history of, they are never, the Punjab has been there, where the population was high, that more, but they have traveled across India, Northeast, South, Tamil Nadu also you will find Sikh community there. I was tracing in the central part of India, like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and I have found that in 1883, I could detect some numbers that Sikhs have traveled that side also. I come from a place which is Jharkhand, which is at present Jharkhand. My forefathers, well, I have seen Punjab first time after 1984 migration. So there was disruption in 84, that some migration have happened. But I find, unlike in your book, where you have shown the crisis which is being also shown by, as deliberated by Mr. Oberoi, but few disruption in 1984 I have seen, but those who stayed, there's another book also, its name is Those Who Stayed for Kashmir, but those who stayed outside Kashmir or outside Punjab are doing well, I mean to say. Means commercially, economically, politically, socially, but they have established themselves. I would say those who stayed had done well, those who are migrated are suffering actually. I will say like this. Second thing, since I am part of some, civil liberty organizations, there are two incidents you have mentioned. One is the Ansari committee, which I will like to know more about that, whether the Sikhs have demanded to open it or not, or how strong that demand was. Or Mr. Oberoi is saying that since there is no leadership, so that also has gone. Second thing, you have also mentioned about this, some FIRs, in Talwara massacre or something like that. 12 Sikhs were killed. One was local from Baramulla and 11 others. Who were those? They have come from Punjab or somewhere. What about their families? They traced it or not? Or FIRs? Where are the FIRs? So that the concept of justice should be there. That's all.
So we'll have the answers.
So I think there was a question about Article 6 and I think so 370 is basically, there's a way to see it. Like for many, that again, many schools of thought, some thought that it was actually of, उस विच कुछ बचा ही नहीं सी, in the sense it was just a symbolic kind of a thing left as a 370. Over the years from 1953 till 2019, there has been a dilution of the powers which initially J&K had. So yes, right. 30. So, yeah.
She'll get to that.
Right. So 370, the basis is 35A. 35A was that there was a gender discriminatory, that a woman who marries out of Jammu and Kashmir, she couldn't transfer the property to her children. Now, this was basically the basis of the entire 370, which people generally don't talk about, that it was a gender discriminatory thing. Now, in terms of Sikhs, because the Sikhs have been politically so alienated from the process from such a long time, and especially in terms of Kashmir. I mean, if you see in last 30 years, it's a complete silence. And it's not that the community does not know how to speak. It is also, Mr. The survival kind of an instinct that, you know, the people think that the silence is their refuge, and unlike those who left, not left, they are actually in exodus since 1989, that the Sikhs were living in Kashmir, so it was a kind of a survival thing, you know, being silent and not speaking. So there has been. And in terms of like talking about 370, I mean, there was not much response from the community in J&K, that, you know, because their demands have been old, it has not been fulfilled. So I mean, yes, in terms of, if you say that a larger interest of the state, I mean, for a Kashmiri Sikhs, how would it matter? I mean, I just question even to my co-panelist, like if we are talking about the migration, is this going to stop our migration, or is it going to open the avenues for us back home? So there was not much engagement. And how I see the community is not responding is that because the community is totally in alienation. I mean, you know, from the political process of Jammu and Kashmir. And I think this is one of the reasons, I think in terms of Article 370, there was not much response. And about, Aditi, your question about pre-47, I think if you see in terms of pre-47 from, in my first chapter, I deal with from 1920s to 47. I mean, there was Glancy Commission, there was killings in Kashmir, there was a Glancy Commission, and Sikhs were not included in that commission. So I have gone to a lot of archival reports which are mentioned, and which I have, in which you will find a lot of details what Sikhs were demanding at that time. Like they were asking that they should have representation in judicial, police, and so there was a kind of a less representation. That's why they were representing. And also then there was also confusion of census, because people sometimes would identify themselves as a Hindu and then sometimes as a Sikhs from 1920s to 40s. So that's also something I highlighted in my work. And I mean, in terms of democratic shift, yes, 47 is a key event, especially for Sikhs, because we had a huge population of Sikhs in Muzaffarabad, and which is now POJK. So there was a huge killings and displacements, and that displacement has certainly affected their socioeconomic position. Yes, numerically, Muzaffarabad is 0 Sikh right now, and everybody is a refugee in Jammu, and they are living in the camps you called Symbol Camp, or, you know, Digyana Camp. These are the places which were basically the camps which established after 47. So, as you know, like what happened in Punjab also, so the partition refugees, of course, you know, their generations have to undergo the entire socioeconomic issue. So in terms of like 47, yes, impacted Sikhs at large in J&K, especially Kashmiri Sikhs also in North Kashmir Sikhs, where my family come from, they were also displaced for us sometimes. So I mean, largely if you see those chapters, maybe since you're a history student, so those archival things might be of interest to you. And I think to Paramitaji, your question, you said about 1900. I have to check like what I have mentioned. So that's what it's a continuation of what was the number of the Sikhs. I mean, if you see the census from that time, there was sometimes the Sikhs were not even mentioned in the census. So there was, and like then I also saw in some census the Sikhs were identified, and then the next census the Sikhs were being clubbed with the Hindus. Because the census.
May I suggest something? So we have a very important. So we can continue. 9 minutes are left for that, and we're in fact.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think then we might be. Yeah. I think with Parminderji, I think I might be telling you about those FIRs, because I have got. I mean, through RTIs, I have got those details. And fortunately, Jammu Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee traced all those families of Talwada massacre, and the compensation was given to them. Apart from one family was not paid. So I can share you in detail, I mean in person, I think. This is where, and about the Ansari Commission also, which was of 89, the report is still, the report was never published. So it's a huge demand in every memorandum of Sikhs, you will find that an Ansari, but of course no political, as Mr. Oberoi said, there is no political party of a Sikh, so we don't have that kind of a representation. So I think with that we can conclude this.
Thank you. So actually, it's too important of a work that needs much more time for discussion. But we have limits of time. We'll conclude the session here today, and I request Professor Kiranjit Sethi to present a formal vote of thanks. And audience can connect with the panelists and the author after this discussion over the tea. Ma'am, please.
On behalf of Bhai V.V.Giri Singh Sadan, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the author speaker, Dr. Komal JB Singh, to our panelists, Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan and Surinder Singh Oberoi. From the discussion that continued, it seemed like a labor of love. It seems that you have put in your heart and soul in the book. From the facets that these two esteemed panelists, they discussed about the book, it seemed like that it's a book about, faith. It's a book about resilience of the community. It was indeed a very wonderful discussion that we had. Big thank you to the author, and thanks a lot to our panelists, worthy panelists. To everyone here also, I would like to extend this thanks for engaging so well. It's been a pleasure discussing them. Thank you again, everyone. I won't take much of your time. Thank you again, everyone. So let's hope we meet soon again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So there is just a small announcement. In March, in February next month, we'll have a book discussion on Labors of Division by Navyug Gill, and there will be a lecture on the on how Sikh Guru cemeteries have been celebrated throughout after independence. So it would be on 20th of Feb and 27th of Feb would be the book discussion. We hope to see you soon there as well. Thank you. So please join for a cup of tea and some samosas in that room.